we're here to talk about domestic violence, to test out our voices, to see if they still work. If we can hear in our tenors the budding strength that will keep building in us. If we can feel in our tremors the enormous power that is bubbling in our centers, and if we can harness it to be a power of good. We take these tentative first steps, and we keep taking the next step. And before we know it, we've taken ourselves miles from where we started. This is how a journey begins. I invite you to take this journey. I invite you to believe you can. I invite you to believe that your children can, that your boys can be strong and still kind, that your girls can be sweet and still advocate for their rights. I invite you to look for new ways to teach your kids that people can disagree and still be good to one another. I invite you to create a new definition for what winning an argument means for you and your family, that everyone should win, that everyone should walk away from a disagreement feeling heard, feeling important with each other, and feeling safe, not scared. That if everyone got to use their voice and everyone's good feelings for one another remain intact, that is how we win an argument, when everybody wins. Alice Walker, the author of The Color Purple, and devoted student to one of my favorite historians, Howard Zinn, said, "One of the most common ways we give up our power is by thinking we don't have them. Dig deep, think back, reach within yourself, and remember when you felt powerful. Do whatever you must to find that sense of yourself and nurture it at all times. And once you do, don't ever let it get away from you again." Women have been struggling to see themselves in a changing worldscape, and particularly here in America, our society has been designed from the beginning around an imported Puritan view of how a woman's role should be defined and therefore limited. Howard Zinn is a beloved historian who died this year and wrote earnestly to tell the histories of those who were oppressed. The love of my life introduced me to his works, and I found that he included a chapter on women's systematic oppression in the people's history of the United States. Howard Zinn writes, "It is possible, reading standard histories, to forget half the population of the country. The explorers were men, the landholders and merchants men, the political leaders men, the military figures men. The very invisibility of women, the overlooking of women, is a sign of their submerged status. In this invisibility, they were something like black slaves, and thus slave women faced a double oppression. The biological uniqueness of women, like skin color and facial characteristics for Negroes, became a basis for treating them as inferiors. True, with women, there was something more practically important in their biology than skin color, their position as child bearers. But this was not enough to account for the general push backward for all of them in society, even those who did not bear children, or those too young or too old for that. It seems that their physical characteristics became a convenience for men who could use, exploit, and cherish someone who was at the same time servant, sexmate, companion, and bearer/teacher/warden of his children. Societies based on private property and competition, in which monogamous families became practical units for work and socialization, found it especially useful to establish the special status of women, something akin to a household in the matter of intimacy and oppression, and yet requiring, because of that intimacy of the long-term connection with children, a special patronization, which on occasion, especially in the case of a show of strength, could slip over into treatment as equal, an oppression so private would turn out hard to uproot. Julius Spruill describes the woman's legal situation in the colonial period. The husband's control over the wife's person extended to the right of giving her chastisement, but he was not entitled to inflict permanent injury or death on his wife. As for property, besides absolute possession of his wife's personal property and a life estate in her lands, the husband took any other income that might be hers. He collected wages earned by her labor. Naturally, it followed that the proceeds of the joint labor of husband and wife belonged to the husband. Our country is still young and still evolving. We're still struggling to define ourselves in a time where there is no blueprint for what it means to be a woman, where it is likely we don't really know anyone who is doing things exactly as we are. This is why it is so important that when we compare our lots to our neighbors and friends' lots, that we don't get trapped in competitions, that we don't measure ourselves against anyone else's standards but our own, which then leaves us free to not hold any other women to standards that we are arrogant enough to impose. It allows us to freely exchange what's been successful for us, allowing our friends and neighbors to borrow the ideas that can be of use and leave behind what they don't need. I am a feminist when the word means helping other women to be the best women they can potentially be. I am not a feminist when the word means holding women to rigid, judgmental expectations of any kind, or when it means stripping dignity away from the men and boys that we love to make ourselves feel powerful. For an neighbor woman, I wrote a piece reaching out to her to let her know that she was supported. Dear woman, you don't know me, and I have no business writing this. You may have 50 people around you who are helping you with this situation and need nothing from me. On the other hand, you may have no one you feel you can candidly speak with and need just one person to tell you that you are not alone. You are not alone. He yells at you, you hear it. He calls you mean names, we hear it. I don't know what else happens when the doors and windows close and we are no longer your witnesses, but make no mistake about it. You are not the things he calls you. Everyone on this block knows that. He has not stripped you of your credibility with us. You may feel stripped of your personal power, of your personal dignity, of the things that used to make you feel special before it made you feel like everything you do is wrong or bad. The only person who has the authority to give those things away is you. The only person who can restore those things, a bit at a time, is you. You are not bad. You are good. Whatever small thing you didn't do according to his standards doesn't matter in the long run. You can keep trying to jump through the hoops which he'll purposely change at the last minute so that you're designed to fail. Desperately hoping that he will see when you do something right, that you're worthy of his love, that you can be trusted, that you really do love him. You can keep waiting for this man to choose you once you've proven yourself good enough. Or you can tell him to go to hell and you can choose yourself. Years ago, it was me jumping through hoops. It was me waiting desperately to be considered good enough. I realized it just before it would have been too late to save myself. I salvaged the little remnants of love for myself that were left, quietly, to find and rebuild everything inside of me that he tried to break down. He didn't like us. He almost killed me for it. But I chose myself, and I lived to tell.